Hello, and welcome to Black Marriage Therapy, BMT for short. Here we become students of marriage in order to create healthy, long lasting relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Smith, and in today's episode, we discuss the love triangle, how different types of love shape our relationship. So I wanted to talk about this topic because it's very intriguing to me. It's a theory that I learned in school, and it really just talks about the different components of love and how whether you have one, two, or three depends on how you may behave in your relationship. As you can see why it's so interesting. But the reason why I'm bringing it to the podcast is because I've been talking to couples and just hearing their stories and things that they're going through. And I realized that some of the things that they're going through are indicative or showing that they have different components of love, but also may be missing a very important part of it. That is one reason why they may be having some trouble in a specific area in their relationship. So I wanted to bring that to you guys and share with you guys this interesting topic. So, in today's episode, we will discuss Sternberg's triangular theory of love. If you have been enjoying the content, please follow us on Instagram at Black Marriage Therapy, rate us on your podcast platform, and share your favorite episode with a friend. We also have a unique opportunity for you to support this podcast monthly. All you have to do is go to our show notes and click the link to support this podcast. For as little as 99 cents per month, you could partner with us to continue to provide you with high quality content. Thank you. All right, guys, let's jump right into the topic. So, we are talking about Dr. Robert Sternberg's triangular theory of love. And essentially, what it is an idea that love itself has three major components. And as you mix and match these components, you get different styles of love, such as companionship, romantic love, or even foolish love. And that's what we're going to talk about more. I'm really going to break it down, but explain to you why it's really important in marriage. Now, I did mention that it is a triangle. So there is a visual that can help you understand this entire concept. And if you want to, you can go into the show notes and there'll be a link available for you. You can click it so you can actually see what I'm saying. But I'm going to explain it in a way where you can understand whether you're listening or watching. So, what are the three major components of love according to Dr. Sternberg? The first one is intimacy. And we have talked about intimacy on this podcast a lot, like a lot, a lot. Okay. And intimacy essentially is that connectedness, is the closeness that you feel. It's knowing somebody, like they're good, they're bad, their dreams, things like that. That is really what intimacy is. And when you have intimacy by itself, he calls it a liking type of love. Like the person, you like them, it's that type of love. The second component of this love theory is passion. Another way to say passion is intensity or desire. And this involves feelings and desires that lead to physical attraction, romance, and sexual consummation, is how he says it. I know that sounds like a funny word, but it means sex, girl. I don't know what else to say. It means sex. um, and when you have passion by itself, you end up with an infatuation type of love. Just think about like that intense desire, or you know how people say love at first sight, where they see somebody. Now, if y'all read them books, see, I'm saved now. See, I'm saved now, but back in the day, them romance books was pretty good. So, anyways, if you read those romance novels or if you watch any Hollywood movie or anything like that, that love at first sight, that intense desire, that attraction is what they call the passion component of love. And that by itself is infatuation. The third component is the commitment part of love. And this involves feelings that lead a person to remain with someone and move towards shared goals. And when you have commitment by itself, he calls that empty love because you're lacking the intimacy and the passion, right? So that an example of that is kind of like staying married for the kids or, things like that, where you're committed, you have something to tie you guys together, but there's nothing else involved in the love. So, those are the three main components of love. Now, what happens when you mix and match them? It's very interesting because you get these flurries, you get these different things that come when you mix and match these types of love, right? And I would say that most couples have two of these type of love, and rarely do you see marriages, like full-blown marriages with just one, but most couples have at least two. So if you have intimacy, which is that closeness, and you have commitment, this is called companion love or friendship love. Right now, as I'm talking and explaining this to you guys, I hope that you guys are thinking about your relationship and thinking about, well, where do we stand, right? Because that is what I thought this theory was so interesting to do. It really brings an awareness like, wait, what does our love look like? And maybe what part of our love do we need to do better on, right? So let's get back to it. If you have intimacy and commitment, then you have what he calls companion love or friendship love. And obviously, most often you're lacking that passion piece of it. And what does the companion love look like? It is secure, it's comfortable, and if I can be honest, sometimes it's monotonous. Okay. It's the same thing over and over and over again, right? But there's security that comes from that. And it's not necessarily that it's bad, but it's just not complete, right? The next one is if you have intimacy and passion, right? Because intimacy is the closeness and passion is the intensity, the desire. It's called romantic love. And in marriage, this looks like being married but not committed. Now, I know that sounds deep, but let me explain. There are so many marriages that I have run into where they like each other, they know each other, they're even sexually attracted to each other. However, it seems like they're living two different lives. Like there's no shared vision, there's no shared goal. Like what are we working towards, right? Or sometimes you have where it's one person who's not 100% in and the other person feels like they're kind of single in their marriage, right? And that is a real thing because even though you get married and you had the wedding and you did the vows, doesn't mean that you're committed in your heart. Commitment is an everyday action over time, and it happens on a day to day. When you like it, when you don't like it, you're saying that I'm committed to work on myself. I'm committed to work on our relationship. I'm committed to working towards our goals and our dreams and our vision. So that is what commitment is really all about. So when you have intimacy and passion, right, it's romantic, but there's a lacking of commitment. The next one is when you have passion and commitment. He calls this foolish love. Do not shoot the messenger, okay? These are his words, not mine. He calls it fatuous love, but fatuous love means foolish love. And the reason why it's foolish is because you have all these emotions, all this intensity in your relationship, like you guys are sexually attracted to each other, desire, everything like that. And you rush into commitment without truly knowing the person, which is intimacy, right? And this can happen in marriage, right? And this is not a judgment type of thing, but if you found yourself in this situation where you guys went from passion to commitment with very little knowledge of knowing each other, you may find in your relationship that you're struggling with intimacy conversations. You're like, or you're finding things out as you go along where it's like, wait, I didn't know your mama was like that, or I didn't know you did things like that, right? And that may be because you rush into the relationship. Now, I don't find in my personal life a lot of marriages that started like this, but it is what it is. That's okay. Even if you did, that doesn't mean that that's the end of the deal, right? We see these, in Hollywood, we see couples who kind of just like it's a fling, or like, they got together, now they're married, right? The Kim Kardashian marriage. How long was she married? Like 45 days or something like that. It's just like, oh, I'm in love, let's make a huge commitment, or I'm in love, let's have a baby. right? And then you find yourselves in some issues because now you're finding out who the person is as you continue to be in a relationship with them. So, yeah, that is Sternberg's theory in a nutshell, right? Now, I'm talking about all these examples, but let me talk about myself, okay? Because on this podcast, it's important that I just don't give information, but I share with you guys our own lives and our own experiences, right? So for us, Junior and I are companionship love, which means that we have a lot of intimacy and a deep level of commitment. But I would say on the passion level, it definitely was not where it started. That's not where our relationship started. If you've been here a while, then you know that my husband and I got married at 18. So we got married as teenagers. We've had a long time of knowing each other and we've known each other in different stages, right? So if that is you, maybe you got married young or you know your spouse for such a long time, this may be where you're at, right? The companionship type of love. And let me tell you something about companionship type of love. It is so good. It is so good because it is so comfortable, right? And it's so secure. You feel so safe. But even in that safety, I have found that we can do better. My husband and I can do better by stoking the flames of our passion. Because although it's not bad to be friends and companions, we also want to have like a complete love. We want to stoke that desire and that, passion, that intensity. Because, at one point we found it so easy. It was so easy for Junior and I to, do our work throughout the day, pick up the girls, do dinner, put them to sleep, and then we'll just like in our pajamas sit next to each other and just watch TV. There's beauty in that. I'm not saying that there isn't, but we also need to have some passion, right? So I just want to be mindful of that and be intentional about that. So, speaking of being intentional about it, how can we go about this? How can we be intentional about it? This is the tips and the advice that I want to go over with you guys to help you as you're recognizing what types of love is prominent in your relationship and which ones you need help with. Here is some tips and advice that I would give you to really further explore this. Also, don't forget in the show notes, I'm going to have more information, more details there if you need to really explore this more in depth, have conversations with your spouse, so forth and so on. So the goal of this theory, Dr. Sternberg, what he says is that you want to work towards having all three. And all three is what he calls consummate love or complete love. And that is having passion, intimacy, and commitment. Because with these three components, you're hitting the nail on the head with the heavy hitters, right? So whether you have just one of these that you've noticed, or maybe you just have two, I want to help you and give you specific advice for each one that can help you to work towards building that up. Right. The first one, if you are missing the passion in your relationship, it's important that you stoke those flames. Now, hopefully they haven't died out, but even if they did, I still believe that you can build passion in your relationship. The best way to do this is through novelty and spontaneity. Dr. Esther Perel talks about this all the time. And don't worry, I'm going to mention her book in the show notes if you want to read it. But what happens in novelty? Novelty breeds passion. Novelty breeds passion because you are experiencing something new with the person that you thought you knew, right? But now you get to know them in a new way. Now, everybody don't like surprise, you should know your spouse or whatever like that, but you can still do something novel without spontaneity. If spontaneity is not your thing, you can still plan something new. So, for example, Jerry and I have a Facebook group. It has 800 members now, and of course, we're going to link that down in the show notes if you want to join. And in that group, we asked the couples, what do you guys do for your birthday? And one of the couples said, we travel like 4 to 6 hours away from where we are, and we just go to see a new place. And I thought that was so sweet. And that's the example I want to give you today. Just traveling just a couple of hours out of your city, right? Or maybe doing a new activity, whether it's a puzzle or painting or, you know, something extreme like skydiving, whatever that thing is, it's something new and it allows you guys to desire one another. Now, novelty and spontaneity goes well in the bedroom as well. So this can easily be applied to sexual passion that needs to be stoked those flames, right? So that could be a different place, a new toy, a different outfit, a different position, okay? So forth and so on. Y'all married, y'all grown, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Just make sure it's legal. Don't go to jail on my watch, okay? Talk about Kristen told me to go have sex in the park. Kristen did not tell you to do nothing illegal, okay? But adding novelty and spontaneity to your to the bedroom is another way also to stoke the flames of your passion. Now, let's move on. If you are missing intimacy, your weapon of choice is vulnerability. Now, if you are missing intimacy as one of the components of love, then vulnerability is going to be your weapon of choice. Now, this is going to require you to get honest and uncomfortable. You can't be vulnerable without honesty. Okay. And this is really you exploring the good, the bad parts of yourselves, right? And sharing that with your spouse. Of course, I want to encourage you to do this in a safe place. If you are in an abusive relationship or in a toxic relationship or in a relationship where, you know, you guys are obviously dealing with traumas and just unhealthy habits, this is not a place for you to be vulnerable. And you may need to seek outside help first before you even get to this part. So I have to put that disclaimer there. But you want to be ready if you're in a safe place with your marriage. You want to be ready to get honest with your spouse, right? And share the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, an example of this, a practical way you can do this is a weekly check in. If you have kids, if you have businesses, if you guys are in schools, have careers, all the things, it's so easy for the week to go by and you guys barely even connect, right? So, have a weekly check in. Talk about the good thing, the highlights of the week, the bad things, right? Things that maybe you want to apologize in your relationship, like there was bad behavior or whatever. And then also talk about what are some ways for you that you want to connect, right? Maybe you want to touch. That's intimacy. Maybe you want to just have a really good, deep conversation. That's intimacy, right? Maybe you just want to talk. That's also intimacy. So that's just a way for you to build the intimacy over time. It takes time. Intimacy takes time. So you can just do a weekly check in. Lastly, if you are missing the commitment component of the love, then the first thing you need to do, baby boy, baby girl, is have a conversation with yourself. What is holding you back? Is there a lack of trust in your relationship? Is there a fear from old relationships? Are there traumas or something that you're not dealing with? Is there somebody in your ear? Is your mama, your family, your best friend, whoever is in your ear telling you not to fully commit, right? Or maybe just something in your heart where you're afraid of that intimacy and that love. What is it that is stopping you from fully 100% getting giving your commitment to your partner, right? And I'm talking about in marriage because there are plenty of people who are married who are not 100% committed. I can promise you that, right? They got the ring, but the commitment is not there. Now, the second step is, you know, having that conversation with yourself, kind of understanding where you're coming from. And then the next step is simple. You got to take that 100% leap in. It's going to be risky no matter what. Even if the person is the safest person you can think of, it's still risky because that person is a person. There's always going to be a possibility of they might hurt me. So it's going to be risky, but you have to take that 100% risk. You have to take that 100% leap. Now, a practical way to start doing this is to talk about shared goals and start walking towards shared goals. I have an episode, it's actually episode 1 of this season, where we talk about building vision for your marriage. We talk about vision when it comes to as an individual, we talk about it for business, maybe career, but for marriage, sometimes we just miss this step. And it's essential to talk about your vision, your values, the goals that you have, right? This is going to help you guys be committed and work towards the same goals. So listen to that episode, right? Do the things I tell you to do on the episode, and that might help you to work towards being 100% committed in your relationship. Now, for the advice for this episode, I want to kind of warn you guys or tell you to be mindful of being envious of other love styles. So let me explain. If you are in a marriage where you guys are companions, you're friends, right? And maybe that passionate part has dulled out a little bit. You may go on Instagram or on YouTube, right? Or TikTok and see these romantic, hot, fiery, sexy love, right? And you may feel like envious of it and be like, oh man, I wish I had that in my relationship. Be careful of envy because they may have romantic love, but be missing friendship love. So you don't know if what you have, they may be missing, right? So you want to be grateful for the things that you have, but then not be envious of the other things that you may be missing. And the same is true for romantic love. If you see, their friends and they're playing board games and stuff like that, right? Don't be envious of that, but just understand that they may be missing something that you have. That is my advice, to be mindful of envy and, of course, to be working towards a complete love where you have commitment, you have passion, and you have intimacy. That is all that I have for you guys today. I'm going to leave you guys with a quote, of course, by Dr. Sternberg. And it says, "Love is not something you find. It is something you build, nurture, and cultivate over time." Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Black Marriage Therapy. Thanks again for listening. Talk to you soon.